Well, it is Friday, and I am back in the office. I was in Camden County, New Jersey this morning representing a client. I was in Pennsylvania yesterday. I started my week out in East Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, and did some time as well in Delaware County. So I was all over both Pennsylvania and New Jersey this week. It is Friday. We did come out with a weekly update today, which went out to over 4,000 of our current and former clients in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. The lead article in this week's e-update focused in on that recent conviction of the former Philadelphia police officer, where he was convicted of manslaughter and possession of an instrument of crime. Now, the manslaughter charge is a lesser offense in the homicide category, but is nevertheless a very serious charge, and the officer faces substantial sentencing guidelines there. The maximum sentence is 40 years of state incarceration. I do not believe he will receive anywhere close to that, given the circumstances around the case. I don't believe that the judge will sentence him in the aggravated range, but there's a strong possibility that he will receive an elevated sentence, because I believe that the prosecution will argue for the deadly weapon enhancement, given the fact that he was convicted of the possession of instrument of crime, as well as the manslaughter charge. So that will raise the sentencing guidelines. If I had to guess by it, I believe that the judge will probably sentence in the range of probably 5 to 10 years of state incarceration. Again, I'm just going off the guidelines and what I expect to hear in terms of mitigation and aggravation. The judge, I believe that she's going to look at the guidelines and weigh all that and sentence appropriately. I do believe the case will be appealed, and they will look very closely on appeal at the jury instructions given to the jury, because it was a very complicated case from that standpoint, because the police officer isn't like a private citizen with regards to the ability to exercise deadly force, which was the issue in this case. Police officers have no duty to retreat, and they can use what's force necessary to effect an arrest, and they can also use deadly force to effect that arrest, and where the potential suspect is going to escape and potentially do harm to members of the public. So that is the analysis that a jury would have to go through. It is different from a private citizen who has the duty to retreat in most situations, but unless they're in their home or place of business. So that made the case complicated. And many defense analysts believe that that's what made the case a lot stronger for the defense. Obviously, the jury didn't see it that way, and he was convicted. His bail was revoked, as would be expected in any case. Usually bail is revoked in most situations where you're facing a substantial sentence. While technically there's no mandatory minimum sentencing for this type of crime in Pennsylvania, I'm sorry, it would be a mandatory in New Jersey with regards to period of parole and eligibility. But there's no mandatory minimum sentence, but I do believe that the judge, just based on the guidelines, will sentence him in that range. With that said, it is Friday. The weekly update went out. We focused in a lot on the officer's article, as well as articles on DUI and DWI. I know it's Friday, people are out and about, and why we always put out a lot of content on drunk driving. This week, we talked about the interlock device. Now, that device allows you to drive even if you've been convicted of a DUI in Pennsylvania. It's not automatic. There is a process. You are allowed to petition for the device. It's not something that you can just sign up for at the courthouse. It's a petition to PennDOT. I lay it out in that article. Because it's Friday, I'll give my weekly advice as far as being stopped for suspicion of DUI in Pennsylvania or DWI in New Jersey. If you are stopped for suspicion of DUI, just give your license registration. Do not volunteer any information. It will never help your case. If you are a medical marijuana user, there's no need to show your medical marijuana card to the officer. It isn't a license to drive with marijuana in your system. Marijuana is a drug, and people, even though it's been legalized or decriminalized, it's still a drug, just like any other drug. So if you have a drug in your system and the officer believes that you are impaired, you are DUI in Pennsylvania or DWI in New Jersey. So remember that. I think a lot of people are getting confused by the marijuana card as being a prescription to basically drive when you're on marijuana. And remember the issue of impairment. You may feel like you're not impaired, but while the court would consider that testimony, obviously it's self-serving, and the officer is going to testify, and more than likely they're going to have an expert testify as to impairment as well. So all that taken into account, my advice is that if you're on medical marijuana, there's no need to tell the officer any of that. Just license registration, that's it. If you ask where you're going, where you've been, no need to answer those questions. Be polite to the officer, be respectful, but there's no need to say I'm coming from the bar or coming from a party where I had a few drinks. That is unnecessary information. The officer really has no right to ask you that. If he says he's going to arrest you, otherwise, let him arrest you. You're better off with that situation, because if you ask him the questions, he's just trying to gain information. If he's going to arrest you, he or she's going to do so regardless of what you tell them. They may tell you that they're going to go easy on you if you just own up to it. But quite frankly, and respectful to the officer, they simply don't have that authority. If they believe a crime is being committed, they have to arrest you. They're obligated to do so. If you have questions, 215-755-9000 in Pennsylvania, 856-793-7429 in New Jersey, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Website, gambleandlaw.com. As always, a tremendous resource for you and your family. All my books, my blogs, my videos are available there in one convenient format, as well as our podcast. We are coming out with our paper newsletter once again. We're working on that as we speak. So it's been a very, very busy week at our law firm, both in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Have a great weekend. If you are stopped, the best time to hire a lawyer is right after arrest. But again, if you have questions, 215-755-9000 in Pennsylvania, 856-793-7429 in New Jersey. Have a great Friday, a great weekend. I'll talk to you all very soon.